everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. This is our free live astro coaching training for 37-ish-year-olds. And we're so happy. We're just going to make sure that everyone can hear us, can, just let us know in the chat. Can you hear me? And then,
hey guys, my name's Sandy. I'm an astrologer and a hypnotist, and I live in Brooklyn. And I'm so excited to share with you today because I've been doing all this research about age 37, and I'm pumped that we decided to tackle this topic. Dana and I are so excited. Dana and I are old friends. We've worked together for years. We met way back when we were 20. So we've been through all of these transits together, and we've watched each other grow and helped each other. And we're excited to help you today with some really great astrology and coaching tools, which go together like chocolate and peanut butter. I don't know. Ooh, we got someone in here from South Mississippi and they can hear me, yay. So Dana might have just told you this, but I can't hear a single thing that Dana is saying. So we're gonna be so in sync that we're just gonna be able to make this flow because we're like cosmic twin cousins, sisters. We're not really related, but we have very similar birth charts. So feel free to drop in the chat where you're coming from, and that way we can get to know you a little bit. You can pop your age in there if you want. This is open to all ages, but it's specific for those late 30s, and we got a lot of juicy stuff for you today. So Dana, is there anything you want to add before I jump into the astrology?
Yes, thank you, honey. Okay, so hi everyone. I didn't intro myself earlier. I'm Dana Balicki. I'm a transformational coach. I live out in Joshua Tree, California, the beautiful Mojave Desert. And I do work with folks, and we're going to do some work together today, which I'm really excited about, to really help them help you get unblocked, right? To like really understand, like, what are the patterns of your life and what are the ones that are patterns you're ready to let go of, and, how to move forward. So we're going to combine Sandy's beautiful, potent astrology insights, focusing on the Saturn opening square, which I'll tell you all about. That happens around age 37. I went through mine at the very end of 2017. Sandy went through hers at the top of 2018. And then we're going to share some coaching around that, some coaching tools. Yeah, so we're really excited, and Sandy's going to kick it off with some astrology.
Okay, so I have some slides here for you. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with you because I want to get into some kind of some information that would be helped by seeing some visuals. So let me do a little screen share. Dana, you'll have to probably do whatever magic you do to make sure people can see my screen. I don't know, we'll see. But here's the slides. So hopefully you can see those now. And if you can't, let me know in the chat. So this is mostly what we're going to be talking about today is Saturn. We're going to be focusing on Saturn and what Saturn has to do with your life around age 37. Dana and I love to work with Saturn because we see Saturn as being the big teacher of the zodiac. Oh, thanks, Maggie said she can see my slides. Thank you so much. So Saturn is the teacher. Saturn helps kind of, it's like that teacher, or maybe kind of like a school guidance counselor who's checking in with you all through high school to make sure you're on track. But this school guidance teacher might be a little bit, maybe like a little bit mean in some ways, kind of really strict, being like, hey, I know your goals are to go to college, so you've got to keep doing your work. You've got to stay on task. There was some valedictorians yesterday, I guess, who kind of threw some shade on her guidance counselor that was in the news currently. Really funny. Anyway, you can check that out. That's why guidance counselor's on my mind. But this Saturn, yeah, Dana says Saturn is cruel to be kind. So Saturn, I really am friends with Saturn. I don't like to think of Saturn as super cruel, but Saturn will tell us the real hard truth. Saturn isn't gonna, say sweet nothings to us, whisper sweet nothings in our ear. Saturn's going to be kind of real with us. And we're going to see exactly what this has to do with age 37 in just a minute. But before we do that, there's a couple of other things that I want to cover besides Saturn, which is really important, these late 30s, mid to late 30s. So I'm going to just touch on each of these things really briefly, and then we're going to kind of go back to Saturn and get back in with that guidance counselor who's keeping us on track. But at age 37, you have, first of all, so much stuff is going on. And not only that, but you're preparing for a bunch of transits that are coming your way in your early 40s. So I'm not even going to get into those because we just have to be where we are, right? We have to kind of work with what we're working with now. But these midlife transits, and I know 37 is not midlife, but we're kind of prepping for midlife here. These transits are meant to really help you feel aligned with your life path and purpose. So there's something called the nodal return, which I'm going to explain a little bit, and that happens at age 37. There's something that's called Pluto square Pluto, which happens somewhere between age 37 and 40. Right now it's happening a little bit more for 38-year-olds, 38, 39, but this is definitely important for us to talk about today because it's what you're gearing up to if you're around this age. And then there's our favorite friend, Saturn, and we have this Saturn square Saturn, which I'm going to really describe in depth for you. So a little more specifically, first of all, about this nodal return at age 37. So if you've ever heard of the North Node, that's what this is all about. And if you haven't ever heard of the North Node, I'm going to describe it for you. So the North Node is your is kind of this point in the chart that describes what your soul is headed toward, your soul's kind of purpose in this lifetime. I truly believe that we have a lot of different soul purposes. You know, maybe I have a purpose in my life that I want to learn how to cook really good eggs. And maybe I also want to like give back and help like a cause that's dear to my heart. Maybe I have like those two purposes, but then maybe I have like three others. Like I really want to learn how to love deeply or something like that. And Maggie said she just got familiar with the North Node earlier this year. Taylor says she's from Joshua Tree. Yay, welcome. Or they are. Okay, so great. So we've got this nodal return that happens at 37. This is actually your second nodal return. The first one happens around age 18. And it's a time where you're trying to tune into that life purpose. And you may have had to kind of had to explore or integrate some new skills. And there's a point where you've really gained some confidence because you've pushed yourself out of your comfort zone at some point in your 30s maybe, and you've come to a kind of sense of like, oh yeah, I am stretching myself, I am growing, and that helps you gain confidence. Okay, and the other thing about this wonderful nodal return is that you're starting to understand and connect with your future self. So for a lot of us at age 37, you're starting to see, okay, this is who I could be. Now this is the nice one, the nice transit for age 37. Some of the other ones are a little bit tricky, but luckily in astrology, we get the more challenging stuff and we get the more easy stuff too. So this nodal return is really something that can be helping us and so it's something to remember as you hear me describe the Pluto square Pluto and the Saturn square Saturn. Okay, so nodal return, we've got that in our back pocket where we feel like we've stretched, we've explored, we've learned some things that our soul wasn't very familiar with. We've connected into our soul purpose around age 37. So now let's get into the harder stuff. Okay, this is why we're here, for the hard stuff, right? And don't worry, Dana and I have a lot of support for you today to help you with this harder stuff. We have an offer that we're going to get into a little bit later that offers some really good support for your mindset and for all the areas of your life at this kind of really challenging growth point in your late 30s. Okay, so this Pluto square Pluto is something that happens, it can start around age 37. Pluto is so far away and moves so slowly that this can be like maybe all the way up until you're 40 that this happens. Right now, for people who are born around like 1982, which maybe some of you were, this is probably happening more when you're 38, 39, okay? So, but what this is that Pluto is the planet of transformation. And with Pluto, we have to leave something behind and start something new. So there's a reassessment that happens where we look at what we've created and we might just really shed. This is like a snake shedding its skin or a butterfly coming out of its cocoon. This time can be kind of intense, where you're really separating from some path that you had started and just realizing what you need to surrender and let go of so that you can create something new. So this again is about alignment, where you're finding, maybe that north node, that nodal return that I just described is helping you connect into your future self, and you're seeing, hey, in my future life, I don't want to do these things anymore. So I have to leave them behind. And this can also really help you build up power. It can help you feel like, I'm connecting into my source of my true power and my strength. And from that place, I am safe enough and strong enough to really make the changes I need to make. So this is a pretty intense thing, and it will come through many, 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 many different ways. Okay, so like I said, these late 30s are kind of, stuff is happening. Like this is not simple, easy stuff. So, and it's going to come through in different ways. And I'm going to summarize at the end because I know I'm throwing a lot of words out there, a lot of info, but hang with me for a little bit longer because I'm going to tie it all together. So the next one, and this is what I'm really going to focus on for this lesson, is the Saturn square Saturn. Remember, Saturn is this guidance counselor helping you stay aligned, or this like teacher who's like, hey, I gave you all of these lessons all year, and now you need to take a test. And when you take this test, now we'll see how much work you've really done, and if you're really, really getting the material we've covered in class. So this is a time where you get kind of tested about what you're doing with your life. Is it working? What is it that you need to let go of? Are you really connecting in with that future self? I think all of these big transits around this age kind of have something to do with each other, and they add up to a big internal pressure, a feeling of like, oh, I've got to work really hard. I've got to make sure I am taking that test and I am putting my all into it. I am showing up, and what I am doing with my life is right, or is it right? There can sometimes be questions at this time, like I feel like I really, really need to make sure that this life is right, but is it right? Have I done what I'm supposed to be doing? And we can really question ourselves and sometimes take a new road. This can sometimes bring up so much pressure where we're like, I got to do this really differently. And I put here that this is testing your foundation, because our foundation is like what we're building our life upon. And we can have different kinds of foundations in our lives. We can have a financial foundation, which is like the money that we've saved, or our investments or our debt, and it's like we have to build upon that foundation. We can have a mental foundation, which is the beliefs that we tell ourselves and the way that we think and talk and communicate with ourselves. And that mental foundation, is what we then are able to build our actions, and our emotions come out of that as well. So there's a lot of different kinds of foundations we can have, and Saturn square Saturn is going to test them. So if you've been really mean to yourself and self-talk has been really difficult or challenging for years, it's going to be at this time possibly that you look and you say, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm wasting energy. I need to start finding more compassion with myself. Is anyone out there experiencing that? Just really realizing like, wow, if I'm not more compassionate with myself, I'm not going to be able to do what I really want to do. I have to learn to be more gentle with myself. Throw a little comment, a little wave, or a little note like, I'm learning compassion, I'm learning better self-talk. That kind of mindset stuff is what Dana and I specialize in, and it's what we're really, really, really working on. Yeah, New to Astro says so true. Maggie says that resonates with my life right now 100% with self-compassion. Laurel says 100%. Totally. Thank you guys for your wonderful shares, of vulnerable shares. I know for myself, I'm 38, so I'm right in here with you guys. Am I 38? Yeah. And I know that this is really true for me. So some of you, I know, new to Astro, I love your name here. Some of you might be wondering, like, what is she talking about? What is this Saturn square Saturn? What is this, like Pluto square Pluto? So I have just a quick little lesson. If you're new to astrology, you want to understand, like, why does this happen at age 37? I can run you through just a quick little illustration that possibly will help you see how astrology is all built on, well, it comes from astronomy, of course, but there's also this sacred geometry that's a part of astrology. And if you can understand and see this sacred geometry and motion, you can get a sense of why the energetics of what's happening are so profound. This is all a study of energy. So I'm just going to show you quickly what this actually means. Saturn square Saturn can sound really abstract if you don't see or understand what it actually looks like. So imagine that here, when you were born, you know that you were born on a certain day at a certain time, right? And if you were to have looked up in the sky at that moment, you would have seen Saturn or any other planet up there in the sky. Of course, you couldn't have done that because you could barely see because you were just born. But, you could have looked and pointed up somewhere in the sky and been like, there's Saturn. So let's pretend that this little glyph, which represents Saturn, was right here in the sky. So pretend that this circle, kind of represents the solar system, and that if you had looked up, circle is like the orbit of Saturn. So if Earth is in the middle here and you would have looked up anywhere in the sky, you might have seen Saturn, and here it was right there when you were born. Just imagine it was right there. And so now Saturn's going to keep orbiting around the circle, and Saturn's orbit takes about 28 years. So it takes 28 years. So every 7 or 8 years, it makes about a quarter of the way around the circle. Okay, so that's how long it takes Saturn to make it to 90 degrees, which is in astrology, 90 degrees is a really big deal in terms of that sacred geometry. And it's a time where you're checking in, you're facing off, you're giving yourself, there's a little side eye happening. So you have these hard aspects, and I'm just going to run through them really quick. And you can think back to these ages to think, oh, well, what was happening in my life then? Was this also kind of a time where I grew in terms of my responsibility? So this is age 7 and 8 is the first time you have a hard aspect with Saturn. And then age 14, 15, Saturn keeps orbiting around. And at that time, it comes opposite to itself. And then at age 21, 22, it keeps orbiting, and now it's like 3/4 of the way around the circle. And it's going to take 28 years for Saturn to get all the way around the circle. So age 28, 29, here's Saturn. It's made its way 3/4 of the way or fully around, and it's returned to where it was when you were born. And then it keeps going. And here is age 37. This is where you're at. Now it's made it another quarter of the way around, and this is another hard aspect. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about these transits. I just wanted to show you that little diagram so you could understand that the wheel keeps turning, and every 7 or 8 years, we get a checkpoint with Saturn, who's our big teacher, our big guidance counselor. This is a really, really important thing to understand, that every 7 or 8 years, you're checking in. Okay, so a little bit more about that Saturn square Saturn, because this is remember, this is testing that foundation, testing what you're doing with your life. And what it feels like sometimes is this kind of hard work, this almost impossible work. Like you set yourself up, to really, really push through into something and make something happen. And it's almost, I felt like I was pushing through a brick wall. Sarah says, I'm 39, and I thought maybe this would relate to my life too, so we'll see. And Sarah, yes, this totally relates to your life, because all of this stuff that we're talking about is just preparation really for what's going to be happening in your 40s. So you're really looking now, we have a chance, 37, 38, even 39, Sarah, because you're still going through that Pluto square Pluto. We're looking to see, like, can we make this work? It's so real right now. Life is short. You know, you've got to really, really, really make what you want to make happen. This is when we see ourselves clearly. We have to take a hard look at reality. Has anyone feeling like around 37, 38, like there's just this hard work? My favorite way to think of this is like basically kind of pushing through a brick wall with my hands, which isn't really the prettiest thing. And maybe, you know, but then that sounds impossible. That's an impossible metaphor. And the truth is that you can make progress here, but it's challenging. Okay, so this is really something where there's a lot of work happening. So this is, yeah, Maggie says, oh yes, definitely. So just to summarize, age 37, what we're looking at here is, in terms of the cosmos, in terms of the astrology, there's a strong need to find alignment. That's that Saturn square Saturn. This is a strong need to find alignment. And there's this Pluto square Pluto. There's also this letting go and this transformation happening. You're kind of separating from something about the past. And then there's this nodal return that's helping you connect in with your potential. So what an amazing time to kind of optimize, a time to change, a time to push through, to push into the next levels of your life experience. And Dana and I are here to help you do this. So we are here with some coaching stuff that can help you, that can be like a system, if you will, to help you find that alignment. And we're going to do it right now today. So that's why the lovely Dana has, you know, remember I was talking about that foundation, and part of that foundation is mindset. And we really have to go into our mindset to find this alignment. And so Dana has like a really wonderful way to help you find alignment right now, because what I've been talking about is general and it's a little abstract. And what you're going to do now is make it personal and make it actionable and make it so that it can help you in your life right now. So let's get to work. And after we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what Dana and I have created as our offering that can help you continue this work, because we've seen our clients come to us around these important ages and be like, I just need a program, I need more. And so Dana and I have done some incredible work on our own around these ages to push and to help and to create a structure and a container for you to continue to get the support that you need, so that when you get into the 40s, you're really kind of flying on your own magic carpet, connecting with your potential, having surrendered and transformed, and feeling really aligned. So Dana, I'm going to turn the mic over to you. And if you have anything to tell me, Dana, just pop it in the chat for me, because obviously I still can't hear you.
All good. All good. We're doing great. Okay. Hi, everyone. Let's see.
Oh, and I have to stop screen sharing. Yeah. Okay, wait. How do I do that?
No, you did it.
I think I did it.
You did it.
Did I do it? Okay, great.
Good. And folks, okay. All right. So hopefully you all can see me. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Sandy, for that. That was beautiful. And again, this is, you know, if you're just joining us or just tuning in, this is the first time Sandy and I have done this particular workshop, this training together around 37. But we talk about it all the time, and she and I, you know, went through it a little bit over a year ago, but some of these other aspects and transits are still like, you know, are still rolling out for us. You know, I just learned a ton. I always learn so much from Sandy. Okay, so everyone real quick, I just want to make sure you can see me. Okay, I'll just wait for maybe a little yes, thumbs up or something in the chat. And we're going to start slides in a minute. But what I want you to do, right? So Saturn is the ruler of alignment. Okay, thank you. And I want you to just, wherever you are right now, like just align your spine, right? Just I'm big into grounding, which we won't get into too much here. But, you know, if you can, put your feet flat on the floor and just align your spine. Close your eyes for just a moment. Right? Take a nice deep breath in through your nose, down into your belly. Feel that spine straighten. Don't force it. Just let it be like a stack of gold coins. There's a lot of integrity. There's just a little bit of movement. And just feel that energy moving through your body with your breath. And on the next exhale, you can just drop it down through the base of your spine. Let it extend like an energetic cord of light all the way down to the center of the planet, a molten iron crystal core. Let it wrap around the center of Mother Earth 3 times and pull snugly. And just feel that alignment. Good. Okay, beautiful. So let's take all of that insight, right? Because I know that when Sandy was talking, I've got my notes here, or the nodal return, Pluto square Pluto, and Saturn square Saturn, which she and I talked the most about. That probably there were some things coming up for you, right? When you were like, oh my God, this is resonating. Oh my God, I feel like I'm like getting like pushed up against, I'm trying to push through that wall or that impossible struggle feeling, right? And so we're going to work with whatever was coming up for you, right? I really, we're going to take that insight and move it into action. And I'm going to share a really beloved aspect of inner work that I do with my students and that I learned around my Saturn return in my late 20s. And that serves me deeply. And so anyone, I got to plug my computer in. It was actually just at 37%, go figure. This is, if anyone here has done any Saturn trainings with us before as part of our workshop, like this will be familiar, but it always bears repeating, right? Because this is about, as Sandy said, she said, this is sacred. Astrology is sacred geometry in motion, and it's all a study in energy. And so I want us to take that and bring this inward, right? So we can understand astrology and the sacred geometry out, in the ways that the planets are moving and interacting with each other and us. And I want us to bring that idea of that study in energy in. Right. And so we know that Saturn is foundational, right? Those big foundational shifts. Sandy talked about life purpose. She talked about that snake shedding the skin, right? And that really testing of your foundation. And of course, she talked about self-compassion, which we're going to get to in a moment. And so this foundational shift is really about that alignment, right? And that's the thing that Saturn wants for you. And it's not about trying to control what's outside of you. It's about understanding, doing that energy work inside, right? So we're actually going to work with some mindset here. And this is going to complement, how we actually work with energy. So when I do mindset work, it's not just about being in your mental body and thinking your way through your sort of biggest blocks or these struggles or these just confrontations that you're having with yourself at this time, right? Because you can't think your way through it. You really have to feel your way through it. So I believe in working with mindset, emotions, and energy, right? So we're going to touch on all of these today. So first we're going to do mindset. And I'm going to point at Sandy, and she's going to know to start my slides. and so as the slides are coming up, let's see. I got to point over to her. Great. Can everyone see? The slides? Okay. It says, you should see. Well, you should just see a slide that says mindset. And I want to just make sure it's working. Okay, great. Thank you. At least one person can see them, which is great. Okay, beautiful. So mindset, the way that mindset works, it's when you are at this place in your life right now, whether, you're sort of nodal return, Pluto square Pluto and Saturn square Saturn. This is the foundational work, and there's like the foundation of you, like how you got here, how you know, like how you see yourself and see the world has to do with your mindset. And so I'm just going to go through this super quickly, like how mindset works, because I know that for me, this was pivotal in understanding like my own thought process and my own emotions and how I, you know, like how I had gotten to like all of the places that I had gotten to, right? And like the things that I was struggling with. And the feelings and the thought patterns that I like just couldn't break, right? And so that's your mindset. So remember in Sandy's slides, and she was talking about the first sort of transit after you're born, or the first time you really like dance with Saturn again is age 7. And so age 7, 6, 7, 8, is a really key time in sort of like the development of your mental body, and as well as like your mindset, right? So it's like when you're starting to understand more complex experience, understand more complex emotions, right? And you're starting emotions, we can think about feelings as like the sort of sensory experience that we have, right? When something happens to us. And then emotions, let's play with the idea that it's like the feelings plus the thoughts you have about the feelings, okay? So it starts to get more complex at a young age. And so here in mindset, right, if we look at the top, there's experience. So everything that feels new is old, right? Everything that you're going through now has like been ingrained and been unfolding and been on repeat for a very long time. Anyone feeling that? Anyone just feeling like on repeat with certain patterns in their lives, and it's just going like on and over and over? I'd love to hear, because that's how it is for most of, you know, really for all of us. And so we have an initial experience, and that's a situation, something that happens like, it can happen over a range of time. It can happen like, you know, it can just be like one experience, one situation, one moment. And basically we have an experience that destabilizes us. And so, you know, as a child, your world is small, and you're just starting to like process these like new, bigger, more complex emotions. And so an experience that's destabilizing, it could be like, oh, I moved around a lot as a kid, or like, oh, my parents got divorced, or it could be a deeper trauma that you still recognize as an adult was traumatic. And that's up for you to decide. That is not for anyone else to decide, right? So you have an experience and it's destabilizing in some way, right? This is how we're understanding the root of any of the patterns that we feel stuck in, that we're ready to like break out of, right? So you have a destabilizing experience, and then you start to think about it, right? And 90 to 95% of our thoughts are repeats from the day before. So, you know, we think about it, we're perceiving, we're having these more complex emotions at a young age. And so we make a lot of decisions about how we, you know, like, is it our fault, right? Like, why did this happen? Like, is it my fault? Did I do something bad, right? We're starting to like understand shame, and we're starting to internalize a lot more, right? And so then in those thoughts, those like perceptions, we plant a seed thought, and we start going with it, 95%, right? Repeats from the day before. And it'll sort of solidify down into a belief, right? And so the belief, is really like, you know, it's like that seed thought that like took a root, right? Because you thought it so many times, or you think about it like this is a study in energy, right? So like energy follows thought, right? Everything in the universe is energy, right? So if you think about a thought as like a wave, right? A wavelength. And then you start to think of like many wavelengths together will make a vibration, right? So perception is the wavelength. The thought is the wavelength. The repeated thought becomes a vibration, which becomes a belief. And it's something you carry forward with you, like into the rest of your life, right? So a lot of times we're operating from beliefs that we created at a very young age. And then it shoots us over here into thoughts, emotions, and actions, which I like to call lovingly the T, right? Sort of our thick, slurry T sometimes. And those thoughts, emotions, and actions are fueled by our beliefs. And so then we have, you know, like a lot of times we try to do work on our thoughts, emotions, and actions in order to change our situation. Anyone here ever done that? Anyone just trying to be like, oh, I'll just I'll just think a happy thought, or like, oh, I'll just like push away that like funky emotion, or I'll just like do something different, right? I'm just going to like go out and like, I'm just going to start going to yoga 4 times a week. Like, that's how I'm going to do it, right? Anyone here ever tried to make some, changes in that way, right? So that is all coming from, like that actually has a root in a belief. And so when we try to change over in thoughts, we try to change on the T level, we're not getting to the root, right? And so then that T, right, is like this cycle, right? This is like an orbit, brings us back up to the experience, okay? So, and meaning, when I say brings us back up to the same experience, means like, it's almost like we put on colored lenses and we're seeing the same thing over again, right? We're experiencing the same thing over again because it's our belief that it is true. And so when we have a belief that something is true, say like, I'm not good enough, for example, or I'm not smart enough, right? That's one for me. So I can have, I'm moving around in my life and, someone questions something that I write, for example. And so I can have then, it's like I get triggered and I have the experience again of not feeling smart enough. I'm like, see that person like question me. So I must have not done it right? Like I just must not have gotten it. It's not smart enough, right? And so we can create the same experience over again. Does anyone resonating with this? Right? Good. And so we also know that coping mechanisms show up in these thoughts, emotions, and actions, right? It's like how we learn to cope with the belief and try to just survive. So let's dive in to the next slide. I'm going to point at Sandy and maybe she sees me. I don't know. I hope so. We're going to move to the next. I think so. Yes, we got it down. Okay, good. So this next part here is like, I want you to think about what pattern, maybe there was something that came up for you when Sandy was talking, right? That you feel like, oh, I'm just like pushing up against right now, right? And so I want you to think about like, what pattern are you feeling like, is like up for you right now? It's just being like reflected back to you, no matter like how you try to get away from it, right? Like a pattern of your life that really you want to shift. And I want you to write it down. Okay? I want you to write it down in your journal, your paper, wherever you got it. Right? Like, what's a pattern in your life right now that's coming up for you at this age that is, you can tell is just like it needs transformation. This could be in a, in your relationships with others. This can just be like how you talk to yourself, right? That T, the thoughts, emotions, actions, that includes self-talk and as well as speech. So I want you to a pattern, if it's like, oh, I just Sandy talked about the self-compassion, like, oh my God, I beat myself up a lot. And I would love to not beat myself up. Or I have a really hard time just trusting people, or I do everything on my own, right? Do we have any self-sufficiency types here? So think about whatever that pattern is, write it down. And we're going to move kind of quickly through it. And so, just trust that's what's coming up is the right info, and you can go back and edit later. Oh, good. Nita Astra says being present is difficult for me. Yes, feel free, please, to, if it feels okay to you. It's not essential, but if it feels okay to you, you can share in the chat here. Yeah. Pattern of intensity in career, burnout, bust, collapse. Totally know that one. Yes. Career stress, totally. Yeah, good. Good. So feel free to keep putting those in. And so I want you to take a breath, right? Close your eyes for a moment. You can put hand on heart or hand on belly, or just hand on your body somewhere, hands on thighs. And I want you to tune in to what do you, inside of this pattern, what do you believe about yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself about yourself? in this pattern, right? What's the story you're telling yourself about yourself in this pattern? And just as reference for the slide that's up right now, we're in this early part here of awareness, and I'm just going to sort of bop us through here, but you're going to get what you need to get. Trust that you came to the right place, right? So what's the story that you're telling yourself about yourself in this pattern? And it might be like you want to say that it's a story about someone else. Someone else is making you feel this way. Someone else is doing something that's like making things really difficult for you. And you're not responsible for trauma, violence done against you at all, right? I do not believe that. And we're always telling ourselves a story about ourselves, right? This is how the mind works. Taylor says, instead of doing what I should do, like work and school, I'm just like in a weird fantasy world in my head, and I don't let it out anywhere. I'm telling myself there's another life out there, but this life is great and now. Beautiful. Yeah. So I want everyone to tune into like, what's the story you're telling yourself about yourself? And it might be like, I'm only valuable when I'm serving other people, or it might be like, I'm not smart enough. That was mine. Here's one. I'm not worthy unless I'm giving my all to everything. Such a popular one. I feel that one, right? Or like, I'm all alone, right? There's no one here for me. Or like, if I trust, I'll be let down or I'll be hurt. So there's a lot of different, stories, and we all have them overlapping, right? Which is sort of our beautiful common human denominator here. Okay, good. So you've written down, like, what's the story you're telling yourself about yourself in that pattern? And I want you to take a moment here and tune back into, when's the first time that you remember having that thought, having that feeling? Remember, like, go back as far as you can and feel safe to do. Right? You can just sort of breathe in and just put a little white light around you. But go back as early as you can. Remember we were talking about age 7 being sort of a core mindset age. For many of us, that's, we want to say college or just like in our 20s or high school sometime, or, or in junior high. And those are all legit parts of your path. But I want you to tune in as early as you can to just remember, when's the first time you actually had that memory, that feeling, right? That story that you're telling yourself about yourself. When's the first time you remember starting to tell that? Or when did you first start to like see that and feel it? Good. I'm going to give you just a little bit more time on this one. Just breathe into it. And if you can't tune into anything specific, it's okay. It might be a range of time, and you might not be able to tune into it at all. And that's okay. Just give yourself permission to, to just sort of energetically tune into the feeling, right? And to like know that it came from somewhere, right? And to just like, could even be from some past life stuff, right? So, could be just, it's definitely from some stuff that's been passed down over time, okay? And be gentle with yourself here. And I want you to just take a moment here and look at the benefits, right? So the benefits of that, of like believing this story that you're telling yourself about yourself, right? Like the benefits are going to be the coping mechanisms. What are the ways that you made it work for you? Right? And some of those are like, ooh, I became super self-sufficient. Like I became really strong. I only needed to depend on myself. And so that's it. I can take care of myself. Good, right? Like, this isn't about judging any of these, right? Like these are ways that we made this feeling of destabilization, like how we were able to survive through it, right? How we were able to make it work for us. Right? So these benefits are sometimes coping mechanisms, but they're also going to be strengths. We're going to see them as strengths, and they're going to be ways that we like identify ourselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. Anyone can feel free to share in the chat anything that's coming up for them, because I guarantee you that like all of us are sort of swimming in the same waters here, right? Even if we feel alone, Saturn and especially some Pluto stuff is happening, right? Like those are Saturn used to be the farthest planet we could see with the naked eye before, you know, the development of telescopes. And so it has an air of loneliness to it, right? And so a lot of us feel like we have to go through this alone, or you have to go through life or difficult life aspects alone, which is not true, which is why Sandy and I are here. But Pluto, for sure, being way far out there, can have some definitely coldness, loneliness sense to it, right? And we're not alone, right? We all share these. So now I want you to look at what's the cost, right? What's the cost? What are, you know, like, what is it costing you to continue to like believe this story about yourself? Right? To believe this, like this limiting belief, that's what this is. It's a limiting belief, to continue to hold on to it as truth. What's the cost? What is it costing you? Is it costing you, you know, the kind of relationships that you want to have in the world? Is it costing you vitality? Is it costing you joy? Is it costing you your creativity and your expression out in the world? Is it costing you your freedom? What is it costing you? I would love to hear in the chat what it's costing you. Good. Anyone want to share like what they're noticing about like what it's costing them to continue to hold on? Laurel says career recognition, which for me is linked to feeling successful, right? Definitely career advancement. A lot of career stuff here. Yeah, intensity, burnout. Chimera Karen says, I wasn't given space to be myself at all, so I put all my energy in either being invisible or a mirror for others instead. Yes, this year has been all about how I've become totally disconnected from my authentic self. Absolutely. Nuda Astra said, this is hard, but it's costing me relationships. My partner left me this week. I'm so sorry. This is a tender, vulnerable time. I'm really glad that you're here with us. Thank you for giving yourself this time and for letting us be here with you. Yeah. So there's a lot here about like, you know, yeah, we're talking about career, but when we talk about career, remember, as Sandy was talking about in the nodal return, and of course this comes up a lot with Saturn, and the alignment is your purpose, right? So like, you know, a lot of us find like a sense of purpose through career, right? Through like what we're here doing in the world, right? So like, I want you to understand that holding on to this belief is potentially costing you like your connection to your purpose, right? It's a big cost, okay? So I know this is tender stuff here, so I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to go back to that place that you were just at, that root, that initial time of your life, whether it was a particular situation or just like a general time range of your life where you started feeling this, right? Where you developed, you had that first thought, remember our mindset orbit, you know, that first perception, and then you put that one on repeat unconsciously. All of this is so unconscious, right? I want you to see yourself at that age. Just picture your beautiful, sweet self at that age. Bring them up in your mind, right? Just put some white light around both of you together, right? You're safe together. And just see them. See yourself. And just shine some love and light, some compassion, right? Some deep, just like that compassion that is actually like a well deep within you, and let it just pour out, shine out like a big beam of sun onto this young one. and shine some forgiveness, right? Because yes, they were the ones that came up with this idea, but it was also reinforced culturally. It was also reinforced by stuff happening in family and around them. And they were just trying to survive, and they did because you're here, right? So there's some acknowledgement of like the work that they did as a very young child to make sense of the world, and then forgiveness, because they didn't have that life experience to be like, oh, well, if I tell myself that I'm all alone and I have to do it all myself, they didn't know that in 30 years, you know, that you were going to struggle in your relationships and in aligning with your life purpose because of that, right? So just forgive, and then forgive yourself, right? Just like loop that light back on you. Let yourself glow with it, right? Or even if it's just that you can only muster the tiniest little bit of light, of forgiveness for yourself for holding on to the story for so long. Good. Good. And just let this little one know that you're going to stay in touch, and that you appreciate them, and you're going to come back to have a play date soon, because you will. And just, you know, say last goodbyes for now. And when you're ready, just see a door closing in your mind. And come back. And take a note of anything about that little visit that you want to share. You can share in the chat, or most importantly, write it down to just like put it in, register it. Good. So in our last minute here before we get into Q&A and before Sandy and I share something with you, I want you to just like bask in that inner child forgiveness, right? And I want you to take a moment and vision, like, how would you like things to be? How would you like things to be, right? Like, you are the creator of your own life. And maybe you feel like you're the co-creator with the universe, like, yes, right, great. So like, but your thoughts create your reality, and not your random thoughts, right? Remember, like, so that's not how manifestation works, right? It's not how mindset works. You don't just have a random thought, like, and then that affects your whole life. It's the ones that are on repeat that we really must pay attention to. And that's what we're doing here, right? So I want you to take a moment and vision, how would you like things to be? Because if you unconsciously created that previous cycle, this orbit that you have been, this pattern you have been stuck in, you can also create what you really want. I want you to get that. Right? Like, this is not life just happening to you, right? Astrology is not just like planets, planetary energy happening to you, right? That's a victimhood mentality, right? Of just life happening to you. So I want you to take a moment. I want you to vision, how would you like things to be? If you look at like, ooh, I'm you know, any of those limiting beliefs that were coming up for you, you created those. And I want, like, how would you like to feel instead? How would you like to feel about yourself and feel about the world around you? What's the experience you'd like to have in this world? Yeah. Good. And it might come through in an image, right? It might just be like, oh, there's just like this image of flowing water, beautiful, let it go. And let that, you know, just like let it resonate. That's your psyche communicating with you. It could come up in words. There might be other images, but just like put it down. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just put down the vision. And now I want you to think about, you can go back later and work on the vision. I want you to think about, like, what do you need to shift This is the big question here, right? This is the like foundational shift question. This is our like study and energy question. That inner sacred geometry right here is, what do you need to shift inside of yourself? What do you need to believe about yourself in order to get to that vision? And not get to it like a destination, but move closer to it, right? So it's like, what do you need, what do you need to believe about yourself in order to have this vision, to have this life that like feels like that is aligned with your purpose, right? That is full of love, which you deserve. That is full of meaning, right? That is, I mean, the world needs you. So it's like, what do you need to believe about yourself? This is going to be a shift because unconsciously you have not been believing this thing for a long time. What do you need to believe consciously about yourself in order to get closer to this vision? Spit it out, put it on the paper. And then put it in the chat if you want to share. New to Asher said, I need to believe that the world needs me. Yeah. Mary Karen said that it's safe to be me. And new to Astro, when you say, I need to believe that the world needs me. Sorry, I have a thought percolating here. It's like, no, let's leave that there. Leave that there. Keep going with that, new to Astro. I need to believe that the world needs me. Write a little more about that. I want to hear a little bit more. Maybe you can share it in the chat. Just like what does that mean for you? What is the world needing you? Like, what does that give you? Laurel, I need to shift into trusting that I'll attract who and what is right for me instead of feeling like I have to push for it, right? Some allowing there, some trusting, absolutely. Right, understanding, Laurel, like where that, where that force comes from, where that forcing energy, right, that may not even be yours. It's just a pattern you picked up, right? And like, so this, Laurel, the shift into trusting that you'll attract who and what is right for you, that trust, right? That's like that allowing, right? Can you like, I love that focus around trust for you. And is there anything that's like in the way of you trusting, or is there anything that you feel like would be really supportive to help you in that, cultivating that trust, right? Like, can you trust yourself? Anon says that I'm good enough to be competitive out there and that my purpose is worth fighting for. Okay, good. And Anon 3384, what does like out there mean for you? Like, it's like I want you to like tune in a little bit into like what that's like being successful in your purpose, like what that feels like, right? Nuda Astra says that my story or art can fill a place in this world. Beautiful. Are people feeling like, it sounds like people are getting this? It looks great. This is beautiful. Shares here. Thank you for your vulnerability. Does anyone feel like they need an example, or does this feel like, are you flowing with this? Good. Okay. Well, I'll see if you want one, but I want to get into the Q&As because I'm sure people have a lot of Q&As. You'll always have lots of Q's for Sandy. Taylor says, I have to run and pick up a friend from the airport. Oh, you're so welcome, sweetheart. So everyone who just wrote, like was writing down, what I could see in the chat here, it's like, let's just firm that into a statement, right? So like, like Chimera Karen, you said like that it is safe to be me, right? Like, let's shift this into like more of an affirmation statement, right? Like, I believe. It needs to be an I statement, right? It needs to be stated in the present, stated in the positive, right? So it's not like, I release all of the trauma and violence done to me. Like, that's good to, if you feel like you're there, but we want to, keep it in the like, in the realm of like that sort of positivity, that positive framing, in order to be affirming, right, of what you want, not like what you don't want, right? So Chimera Karen would be like, I believe that it is safe to be me, right? And so everyone, just like, if you could just take that, and you can write it down and work on it for homework and just like solidify it into a statement. It's succinct, it's specific. It's about this growing edge for you and no one else, a change for you and no one else. Okay. And it's an I statement. Good. Right? There's the one that's like, I'm good enough to be competitive out there. My purpose is worth fighting for. Beautiful. You all are naturals. Good. So I want you to you can finish that for homework, and we'll send a follow-up email that gives you some more, some more info on homework there. And it'll give you some more support on homework and how to keep working with this, right? So you're going to take that statement and you're going to work with it every day, right? In the morning, you're going to go into the mirror and you're going to say it into your own eyes. And it's going to be so awkward and weird because they're not used to talking to ourselves like this, but you're going to do it. And you're going to just work with it day after day after day. Okay. So I want to just say that, like, I want you to just like tune in to how you're feeling right now. And I want you to know, Sandy and I want you to know that this can continue, this feeling of like the tuning in, the hearing yourself, the seeing yourself, the being supported, by us, by others, right? Like, this can continue. And there's a whole structure and framework, right, that we've created, that Sandy and I created, that we can't wait to share with you. And we're going to share really quickly about it, and then we'll make room for Q&A. So I just want you to feel it in your body, right? Like, how it feels to really see yourself here, how it feels to like just look at that thing that is like sort of this painful pattern of your life, and to just like look at it, and then to like how it felt to shine that compassion on your inner child, right? So that can continue. And the structure that we've created for this support, exactly this, is called the Saturn Return Workshop, right? Sandy mentioned earlier that clients are always asking her, like, okay, so here's all the stuff happening in my chart and in the, in the universe, like, what do I do? And so, we're going to share what it looks like, what you get, sort of a special pricing for those of you who are signed up for today. And what's great about this program is that, like, you can really feel the support of the structure, right? And, if you are a self-sufficient type, if you identified as that earlier, like, this is important for you. Basically in this program, right, the Saturn Return Workshop, which we run for several years. We have over 100 students now that have gone through this course, some which may be here with us today again because they love doing this work and digging in. So we have, when you join, you're really folded into this growing community that you can access over the course of the program, and then and then as we open it up again, right? So like, you can grow with it and it grows with you. And it's really a guided healing journey through your cosmic rite of passage. Sandy, do you want to put up a slide here real quick? I think that would be lovely. Great. So, really the workshop is for you if, like, you're in any of these Saturn transits that, like 37, here we are, right? And then we know that there are other ones, early 20s, mid 40s, etc. If this work has resonated for you today in any way, and that that it's time to shift these patterns, right? So we did this work we did the pattern work, we did the mindset work. If you're like, oh my God, the cost was so big to hold on to this limiting belief about myself, like, I have to shift it, right? Like what else, like I can't move forward if I don't shift it, because you can't. Remember how big that cost is. Are you still willing to pay the cost, right? And maybe you're really curious about working more with astrology. You want guidance, you want structure, you want support. You're ready to step into your power and really do the work to design your life. Like this workshop is for you. And, Sandy, why don't I let you, because I think you can hear me now. Why don't I let you talk just a little bit about, like what's, like what the structure looks like, what you get. So you want to talk about the astrology side? Oh, I think she can hear me. Wait, hold on. I think I muted her. One second. Wait, Sandy, are you muted? Okay, so I'm not sure, for whatever reason, Sandy's muted and like can't unmute. I don't understand why. So I'm going to tell you about the astrology side then. So Sandy is an amazing mentor and teacher, as you know. She basically teaches, the astrology, like an astrology 101 course inside of it, okay, inside of the workshop. You do personalized birth chart. She does that for you, and she writes up all about your Saturn placement in your chart. So like not only do you get like what you got today with us, but you get like such a deeper dive into like where Saturn is in your chart. So what's coming up for you, what house it's in, what sign it's in, like all of that contributes to like what you're going to be experiencing. And Sandy gives you that like deep inside look so that you really know what you need to go to work on, right? And you'll get audio trainings about like Saturn and the sign and in your houses, and a ton of support to really understand it. You can nerd out on the astrology so hard. And you can also just like do the basics, right? So you don't have to nerd out so hard. And Sandy, if you can go to the next one, because I'll tell you a bit about the coaching. And like, what I haven't said yet, and because we usually save it till like after I talk about the coaching, is that you get live Q&As every 2 weeks for a year, right? So Sandy and I are with you at live, just like this, every 2 weeks for a year. And why I'm bringing this up beforehand is because Sandy pulls up your chart every time you show up to one of those live, one of our live Q&As, or you pre-submit a question, which you can also do in case you can't make it. She pulls up your chart and she looks at like whatever's happening for you, right? So this is like having an astrologer like on your side, in your corner, right? And then you get me, hi. You get coaching, right? So you get much deeper dive into all this work we did today. You get a lot of healing guidance to work with your emotions in a more skillful, powerful way. We do curated and really just like highly curated energy work, and I'm always adding to the coaching, right? So it's like we do the inner child work, we do different energy, we do grounding work. You actually have daily and weekly homework exercises, and Sandy gives some homework too, including the journaling prompts that like just like open everything up for you. And basically, like no big deal, just like a structural redesign of your life, right? This like deep study and energy. Let's realign all your sacred geometry. That's what we do. So like I said, you get the full year. So you get us. Sandy and I are yours for a full year, which means it's over 10 hours of like our recorded lessons. So you get access to a digital program that you can access. You can see our cute little picture here. That's what it looks like in the student portal. And then you get over 20 hours of live coaching with us. You'll get lots of bonuses, a 60-day workbook, audios, ritual suggestions, a ton of stuff. And then there's a private Facebook community if you want. We do a lot of action in there. It's not necessary for you to be in there if you're not on Facebook. But there's a lot of interaction that happens over there too. Like in addition, if you want that, like, you want to participate in that. And whenever we add to the course over the year, right? And you can get access to this anywhere in the world because it just needs the internet. And so, here's just a lovely, sweet Cassandra, one of our alumni. And I won't read the whole thing here, but she talked about the workshop as fundamentally changing the way that she relates to herself and others, and the way she relates to her past and future. And the guidance, the astrological guidance, and the real life skills really helped her cope with anything. To help cope with anything your life might be throwing at you, is everything I needed to gain the insight and drive to navigate the trials of my Saturn return, right? And that I'll look back forever at this experience as a pivotal, game-changing moment for me in my life, truly empowering and enlightening. And we have dozens of these. And we love supporting our students. And so you can get all of this. You can join us for $497, right? Which is like a year of an astrologer and a coach in your corner, just like digging in with you. Or you can do 9 monthly payments of $77. We really want to make this accessible for folks. And so 9 monthly payments of $77. And you can also opt in and do 2 60-minute coaching sessions, one with Sandy, one with me, for $222, which is our Saturn only price here. So that's what we've got, and I want to open it up to any questions. And I'm just looking back here in the notes, and yeah, these are beautiful. I'm so glad you all are here and sharing this with us. Does anyone have any questions about this? We'll also share this in a follow-up email, so you'll get this, you'll get your homework. Does anyone have any questions about anything that I just shared, right? I mean, like the level of support that we provide. I mean, Sandy and I wish that we had this during our, Saturn transits. I mean, luckily we did in this, like in our last one, in the Saturn square Saturn, like everything we talked about today, we did have this, and we definitely had each other. And so we want to,
interrupt you really quick. I think you can hear me, but I can't hear you, but they can only see me right now. Hi.
Oh, hi. Okay, maybe you can see me again. Yeah, okay, great. Hi. So, what I was just saying is that, Sandy and I created the level of support that we created is what we wish that we had during our, during these times of our lives. And so we're so honored to be able to support you, whether it's just with this free webinar, whether it's with the deeper work. Does anyone have any questions about any of this or anything that came up through, the work that we did? A question for me, a question for Sandy. We'll stay on a few extra minutes here and answer questions if anyone's got them. And what I will say is I'll just, if you scroll down on the page where you're watching, or we're watching the replay, you can see a lot of, you can see some info, you can see some, a layout of the different modules, you can see testimonials, you can also see our, sort of a layout of the course, and then some FAQs, right? And we do actually offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can start in there and do the work. And if it really doesn't feel like it's supporting you, we have our full refund policy. You don't need to be like a super experienced, astrology student. You can be a beginner or you can be advanced, and this work will rise to meet you 100%. And, you're going to get, if you look down through the FAQs, you can really a lot of questions that folks have are answered there. And so we're happy to support you. And if there's a question that's not there.
Okay, so we have one question, which is a personal astrology question. It looks like there's only a couple of people here, so I can answer that really quick because I am with you, Anon 3384. I also have Saturn conjunct Pluto in the 10th, or it's not truly conjunct, but it's pretty close. Anyone, well, what I'll say about this is that, of course, I'd want to see your whole chart to really do an interpretation because it's just one small piece of the puzzle. But, you're taking, anytime there's a conjunction, you're taking together those two energies. So the energy of being someone who is trying to focus on learning how to do transformation in their life in a way that's very, that's part of their foundation. So making yourself into someone who's comfortable with truly going into the deeper mysteries of life and like being really stable in that and strong in that, this could make you a healer or someone who helps others transform. It's not anything to really, worry about. And it would definitely, the answer wouldn't really be related as much to this course or to what we're doing. Although if you join the course, I would of course be able to look at your whole chart, and then I could help you more with understanding how that relates to your other placements. And so we could actually get a little bit deeper rather than just like pulling out one small thing. So if anyone has questions about, any of the stuff that we discussed, Saturn, sometimes people have questions about the course, like how long it takes to move through the course. It takes about 12 weeks to move through the course, but you get that year access, so you can take your time. But if you wanted to just go straight start to finish and put in about an hour or two every week, it would take about 12 weeks. So that's it's a nice little program that you can do 3 months of really shifting your whole mindset and shifting and transforming your life on a deep level. And I don't think I mentioned this, but I used to do coaching with Dana. Although we've been friends for so long, for a year or maybe a half a year, she was also my life coach. And the work that I did with her is very similar to what she teaches in the workshop. And it did truly transform my beliefs about myself, especially those beliefs around my self-worth and how I feel like I'm able to have love in my life and feel worthy enough to do the kind of work that really lights me up. So really key things and key transformation that I got from this work. It's really the same stuff. So I'd love, any questions you have, we'll take just like 2 more minutes unless a bunch of questions come in, and then we can devote a couple more minutes to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll stay tuned here for a couple more questions, if any. And just, if any of this is resonating with you, if you're like, we get a lot of questions. Obviously, we're doing this training here today for folks who are like in this like 36, 37, 38, age range here. But it is called the Saturn Return Workshop. And people are like, oh, is this something that I need to be a certain age for? And it's really like the transformational work that we're going to do here that you got like a tiny, tiny taste of today, is for everyone, right? It's for any age. And like, yes, like there are going to be these key ages, right? That like where a extra bright light is going to be shining on all of these, like, on these inner and outer structures that aren't in alignment, right? Like, yeah, key ages are going to show you, are going to like really, like the cost is going to be so resonant, right? You're just going to be like, oh my God, I can't keep going like this, right? And in between those key transit years, like you're still feeling it, right? Like you're still ripe for change. So that's really like why we created this, is like, yes, to like work with the powerful, potent astrology. And like I said, Sandy, every 2 weeks, Sandy and I have an office hour, live Q&A, and she pulls up your chart. So whatever's going on with you, it doesn't have to just be Saturn related. She can help you. Yeah. All right. So I don't see any more questions, Sandy.
So I think we haven't seen any more questions come in. So I think we're just going to say goodbye, and thank you for sharing your time with us, and thank you for being here. We just I had a great time. I love teaching. This is new material that we taught today. So, watch it again, take notes. Like, I hope you really got something out of it, and I hope to get to know you more and connect with you either through the course or through email. And be well and have a good one. Bye.
Yeah, and just know that this will be up through the weekend, right? And so you have the availability to like get in on this, to get in on the workshop and to watch the webinar this, through the end of the weekend. So we're happy to support you. Please let us know if you have any questions. You can just hit reply on any of the emails that we send you. Mwah.